Indy Road, and I'm here with Jennifer Rumely at her business called the Pacific Honeybee. And it was just happenstance that I came in and you were the owner, and it was amazing to know that we went to high school together, and we go way back. Yeah. And my husband and I were looking for some wax for our mushroom plugs in our garden, and lo and behold, Jennifer was here, and the owner of this business, this wonderful business. So tell me the story about how you and your husband got into beekeeping.
So my grandfather was a beekeeper, and I started watching him, and I always knew that I wanted to do it someday. And it ended up that we got our own hive from, I think it was a birthday present from my parents, because they knew I always wanted to have bees too. And so we got our first hive, 9 years ago. And it was awesome and fun, and imploded, in not figuring it out right. And that's the thing that is one drawback. A lot of people will try beekeeping and they're not sure, and they just kind of relax back into thinking it's not for them. But we took a new perspective and just kept going with it. And you have to have that kind of perspective when you're working with the bees, because there are a lot of things that can happen, go wrong, and you're going to have to troubleshoot and figure it out. So it's just really being tenacious about the process, and knowing that you want to do it, and it's okay if it doesn't work out, you can keep trying it again. They're insects, so their life cycle is very small compared to ours, so we can actually just keep plugging along and learning. And it really is a lifetime of learning. There's people out there who are called professionals and doctors in the field of beekeeping, and they really don't have a handle on everything yet. And so it's pretty big. It's actually known as the most complicated, complex bioorganism on the planet Earth. So there's so much to learn.
Wow.
So much to learn.
So how long have you been doing the business?
So we took our first hive that didn't work out to 2 hives the next year. And then it went to about 6 hives the next year. And then my husband loved it so much that he actually started working for a professional beekeeper. And we got up to 64 colonies, so we could actually start, producing honey. And from there, we took it up to, I think, 120. And then we're now in between 700, 750 hives now after the 9 years. So it takes quite a bit of time, but we were on a mission to actually grow and do it for our business. So we weren't going to just stay small. We were going to progress, and now we've progressed all the way into a shop.
Okay, so what do you do with the hives?
So we are pollinators. We pollinate the almonds in California right now in February. We start pollinating, and that's the beginning of the blossoms. So then we take them up to Oregon, and we do apples. After that, blueberries. And then we're into blackberries and pumpkin, radish, and we do a meadow foam. So we pollinate the valley's seed crops.
Wow.
And we even do pumpkins. So
it's an important job.
Yeah, most people don't realize without the bees there wouldn't even be a pumpkin. It has to visit the flower, and then the flower becomes the fruit. So it is profitable for us to do the pollinating. And it took us about 8 years to get enough honey to have a whole shop where we had enough to share. Other than that, we were just doing it kind of still in a small scale out of my kitchen. And now we're big scale and shop.
Oh, wow.
With customers.
So when was the first day that you opened up the shop?
So it was about a year ago, right before Christmas last year, 2018. So about a year and a couple months we've been open. It's been really great. Slowly and surely lots of people are interested in the bees and having a local beekeeper, and it's kind of nice. You hear on the news now people are looking for local beekeepers, so it's something that's in the psyche of the people wanting to go back to their roots and back to nature and find sugar that is more available for us in a natural sense. This is not a cooked product. So our label is actually raw, and there's so many enzymes and beneficial factors for it being raw that we can still offer that as a small company. A lot of the bigger companies will heat treat their honey, and to get it to go through their equipment easily, they heat it up and it becomes a syrup. So that is more of a sugar that can mess with your blood sugar levels, and raw honey is more easy on the system, where there's not as spiking the blood sugar, and it maintains a longer duration in the body because there's micro amounts of protein in the honey, actually, because there's little bits of pollen, and the pollen is the bee's protein source, and their honey is their carb, so they need both, just like we need both.
Right.
So it actually has a little bit of pollen in there, and it can make your blood sugar sustain better. So it's actually really beneficial for people.
And for allergies as well,
Actually,
especially
yeah.
getting it
We
locally.
have had so many people do really well with allergies. We live in one of the worst allergy places in the Pacific Northwest. There's so many people with allergies here. And because of these seed crops, we do a lot of grass seed growing. And grass seed for the whole country in our little valley means a lot of people have irritation.
Right.
And because that irritation is so strong, it is really debilitating for some people. And what we noticed is by just having a little in their coffee or tea every day, a little bit on your toast, just once a day actually, can do it.
Yeah.
And so for doing that in the spring, like right now in February, March, before the April, May comes, is really beneficial because you have that underlying, you're dealing with it, you're getting those small amounts of the pollen and the irritants, and it actually acts like a homeopathic effect to a certain extent, because it helps your body fight those irritants by giving yourself small micro amounts of the pollens from your area in the honey.
Okay.
So that's the way that works.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what were some of the challenges that you and your husband had to go through?
Well, the whole not being good at something.
Yeah.
Learning.
Just starting.
Yeah. And the mites are really a problem with the bees right now. And mites are a parasite that actually can shut down a beehive, a whole colony, because they are the vector for many diseases, and because they puncture into the baby bees, they can carry other diseases. So they're the beginning of a whole range of problems that can happen. So keeping on top of the mite load is very important for all beekeepers, whether you're a backyarder or you're a commercial beekeeper like our company is. The mites are the biggest thing, and the controlling of them is what's going to allow you to keep your bees. And we on our websites claim that we love to save bees, and that is what saving bees for us is all about, is just making sure their parasite levels aren't too high, making sure they have enough food, and essential oils are what I actually add to their feed to make sure that they don't get internal parasites as well. And so using plant-based essential oils and feed that's the most natural, which is putting them on their forage, is the best idea. So we're actually considered bee ranchers.
Oh,
yeah,
perfect term.
We actually ranch the bees, and we take them to their forage locations like you would with cattle.
Right.
And so because we're moving them, they get put on new blossoms. Blossoms last 2 to 3 weeks per variety of fruiting plant. So they actually need to be moved quite a bit. So it's pretty labor intensive on them to be doing this, but it is their food. And so that's the best source of food that they can have is blossoms. That's what they actually want, instead of feeding them too many supplemental sugars. So we like to do it as natural as we can and get them moved to their own new locations where they can forage naturally. And that's how we manage saving our bees. And where other people who aren't having as much luck these days probably should focus more on the essential oils and the mite loads and making sure that the bees are fed well. that will help a lot of the problems that are going on in the beekeeping world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So most people don't realize it's like when you get a colony, it's almost like having a kitty or a puppy. You have to make sure it's okay, and I know there's a lot of them, but it is one entity as a colony. They're providing heat and warmth and forage for each other, and so because of that, they're acting as one. So when you're working with the bees, it allows for there to be this nurturing understanding when you see it kind of like a pet, where you need to make sure they have light and water and food and all those things, that they're real and they're alive and they need attention, and it's a pretty fun process. Yeah. Because there's so much to watch, and it's entertaining for everybody in the family. The kids love it. They're totally into it, and it's really fun to watch, them coming into the hive, and they've got the pollen packed so heavy that sometimes they fall back and they fight their way in the hive, and it's really fun to watch.
How much honey do they produce?
So in Oregon, which is not a high honey yielding state, we can make 30 to 50 pounds per colony on honey. That's leaving them enough where they can survive the rest of the winter without any supplementation. And so, if you're in the Midwest, where they can do lots and lots of stacks of boxes, I mean, they can get hundreds of pounds per colony because of their forage being so vast. But because of this small kind of place that we live, it's more labor intensive to get the honey here, and it rains more, so the blossoms sometimes can be lost to a rainstorm, and then they wouldn't have made all that honey. So it really depends on the weather and the amount of rain, what we can make.
So what products do you have available for your customers?
We are focused on honey, because it's the sweetest and most people know it the best. Yes. We started doing honeycomb, which seems to be having a resurgence with the teenagers. It seems to be really popular, and we need to keep making more of that because we're already out.
Oh, wow.
So we need to increase the amount of honeycomb that we're actually doing for sales in that way. But we do, I make my own lip balms with the wax, and we make our own candles with the wax, and we have a product that I do a glycerin soap with honey in it, and that seems to be really popular.
And I tried that, and it was amazing. Was it? Yeah, my skin was really good, really clean.
Yeah, it does. It has like a squeaky clean afterfeel.
So Jennifer, you wrote a book.
I did.
Okay, and it's called Brainwashed.
Brainwashed.
Yes.
Recipes for Mental Revolution and Human Evolution. So that's a little controversial, but I don't mean anything bad by it. I actually wrote the book and got the inspiration for the byline because it helped me. The process of going gluten-free helped me clear my mind so much, and it was so revolutionary to my process that I felt that it needed to be known by everybody. And it actually was a whole mental revolution for me because I had so much inflammation on my brain from being allergic to gluten and I think dairy for so many years, since my childhood, and not realizing what the different body issues I had were ending up being, that once I found that you could go gluten-free and lose a lot of the inflammation going on, it was really a truly mental revolution. That's what gave me the power to write the book, was it gave me so much clarity in my mind. And then the human evolution part, it's not as controversial as you may think because we all are evolving at all points. And so in order for us as humans to evolve into who we truly can be, letting go of the things we're allergic to is part of the basic process to understanding your truth. Because with all the inflammation, it's very difficult to really grasp your truth. And so that's the reason why I wrote the book, was there's so much information that we can access for clarity once we let go of the things we're allergic to. And it ends up the people in America who are more on the lighter hair and eye spectrum have more gluten intolerance.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so it can run in families. It's genetic. And also one of the issues is that our grains have become hybridized and the body doesn't even recognize them as food anymore. They're an irritant. And so by
GMO.
letting go of the irritant, and I thought for years, oh, if I do whole wheat and organic whole wheat, and if I do this and that, the wheat itself, the gluten molecule looks so familiar to our bodies because it looks and mimics just like it's the thyroid hormone. So it'll start attacking the thyroid, and then the beginning of a lot of metabolic problems like diabetes and such, it's because the thyroid has been attacked first. And so most people will let this problem go for years and years and not realize what's going on with their skin, what's going on with their metabolism, and it all is this hand-to-mouth connection. It's all right here, the food. And once you can be strong enough to not allow the gluten or the dairy, because in our house we call it the trifecta, sugar, gluten, and dairy. And it's in almost everything on the market. And it is addictive. And it acts like an actual opioid.
Yeah.
And so it predisposes people to want opioids. And one of the issues underlying with the entire American public is that the need for opioids and the pain management is started from the pain that's being caused with the foods that they're eating.
Yeah, and inflammation leads to all kinds of diseases. So if you can deal with the inflammation, then you're going to get well.
And one of those things is cutting out the trifecta. So the white sugar, the dairy, and the gluten. And you can still eat relatively normal these days. There's a lot of alternatives. There's a lot of new products. But I wrote my book before there were all these new products, and it was my own journey. So I was just exploring the whole world without all these baked goods that I got brought up with. And it's really a whole world of nutrients and superfoods. And that brought us to beekeeping.
Yeah, well, honey is a great alternative for that sweet tooth that we all want.
And it's actually good for you.
Yeah.
And you can have it.
Yeah.
And you can bake with it. And so it was a total revolution for me. And I just want to share it with everyone. And so I wrote the book, put it on Amazon, so everyone can have the availability to get it now. And there's so many great ideas in it. I start out with a cleanse, so people can do a full body cleanse. I learned about that in Hawaii from a beautiful Auntie Margaret Hawaiian woman who was a healer, and she taught me about how to cleanse. And so I start with the cleanse, and then it's a really great thing to do in springtime, the spring cleanse, and get your body kind of rebooted. And then just go gluten dairy free for 6 weeks is all we talk about, and just try it for 6 weeks. And after 6 weeks, it changed my life. So I chose to continue, and that's a total viable option for many of us. There's so many wonderful recipes and products out there now. It's not even difficult to do anymore. Because at this point, when I wrote the book, I was really pioneering into territory 9 years ago, that nobody was really talking about yet. And so this was my entry to the world of gluten-free, dairy-free. And I encourage everyone to go look for it on Amazon. And there's an e-reader even if you're
A Kindle? Great.
And so that's available for everyone.
All right. So you've been in many places around the world. So you've been able to communicate and learn from people. And so you've gained a lot of this knowledge from listening and learning from others from all around the world.
Yeah. And some of my recipes are actually from some Mediterranean places, which are really fun. And I learned a lot. And I give a lot of commentary. So half the book is recipes, and the other half is commentary and opinion. And it really is a lifestyle and a change that you can make incrementally or full-heartedly. And really this is kind of a handbook for helping you with these alternative ideas, getting past just mindless eating, and really explore superfoods. I have a whole chapter on superfoods, and I have a connection where there's a listing of all of the different vitamins that you can find in foods, because it was disturbing to me that our only option was to just get this bottle where they pre-manufacture these synthetic vitamins. And I realized that vitamins and minerals are in all the herbs, and they're in all the foods. And so we really don't have time for this white bread, white sugar reality when it doesn't have any nutrients in it.
Right.
There's so many superfoods out there to explore. There's so many nutrients that we can pull in, and they're all through food and tea. And so I list out all the vitamins that you would naturally want to find in a multivitamin and show you the foods that they come in. So you can just focus on those foods for your whole pharmacopoeia.
Well, that's a wealth of information.
Thanks. Yeah, it's really exciting to share with people because it's changed my life so much.
Well, changing my diet and how I eat and where I get my food has changed my mental capacity to be able to hold thoughts for much longer. I have been able to feel like I have more energy and to do more. A lot more endurance overall.
And you're making your own mushroom logs now.
Yes.
So those are superfoods for sure.
Now, didn't you start
I did
this
those
whole
too.
business because of mushroom logs?
Actually, it had a lot to do with it. We were looking to do the mushroom log project, and then we're looking for wax, just like you. And I thought, oh, this is funny. This is the path. You look for the mushrooms. Here comes the honey. Oh, and guess what? They're just finding new research that mushroom mycelium sap that comes from the reishi mushroom is actually medicinal for bees.
Oh, wow.
So they're learning all about bees getting medicine from their foods and from even fungi.
Wow.
So there's a whole nature pharmacopoeia out there that we could actually learn a lot about from just the bees and what they're collecting.
Yeah.
Which is really fun. So it's a whole circle of life right there.
Yeah. Amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. And
this is so fun.
Where is your shop, and where can customers come and get your products?
We have Pacific Honeybee's shop is right downtown Mount Angel, and we are in the historic Bavarian sector of town, which is basically the whole town.
Yeah.
And it's on 125 North Garfield Street, and we're here Thursday through Saturday, noon to 5:30.
And your website?
PacificHoneybee.com.
All right.
And we have our honey for sale there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.